It's really, really pretty when I heard it, to be able to bring it down. It sounds so pretty when Ma'a was saying it. It's just so poetic. There's a, I just kind of fade away in the feeling of it. But it takes a while to get to where you can feel that, because, like I said, we're like a kid on the piano right now, boinging notes. So we will use this tomorrow, and that means we'll have to have you a copy of it. And even if we stagger through it, that's all right, because we have the Iani with us when we go to these sites, and they will carry the main frequency line. In other words, they will be singing it with us and to us, and even if we anchor it, it's almost like we're just singing in slow motion or saying it in slow motion. They'll already have it set, so our shields will respond. And it's like our shields will go faster than we will, right? But we need to say the tones to, personally tell our shields that yes, we are using this, because somebody else, in most cases, unless you do something elaborate like create a beast with Metatronic implants from here until eternity, like they did, it's very difficult to mess with anybody else's shields directly. Like, I couldn't give a command to your shield. I can't say, even to a person in the hospital, okay, I'm going to make your Maharic shield come up. The only thing you can do is send a spark over, see if their own avatar will let it. So even if the Iani are there with us saying this thing, if we didn't say the words, at least to ourselves in our head, which might be the case, it depends on how it looks up there, whether we sing out loud or sing to ourselves inside. If it's going to get us in trouble or there's going to be police chasing us or anything like that because we're making noise, I don't know. But we'll see that when we get up there. Hopefully it won't be like that here. I don't think it will. We had to do that in Arizona, in Sedona, when we were up there. We were making the rangers very nervous because so many people came up in this one spot. Oh dear. It's like, so we did a silent, like we even did silent spinning. We had our astral bodies get up and do the spins for us. And just, and it was funny, there were people wobbling, right? You're sitting on the ground, the physical body starts to do this. It's doing the spin with the head. I wasn't. I didn't even realize it until I opened my eyes and I realized, okay, I got caught in the momentum. So we will get this to you as soon as possible so you can play with it and practice it. We'll practice it again at some point before tomorrow, and then we'll probably practice it when we get up there tomorrow as well. We can do lunch, so we're not doing lunch at 5 minutes before dinner. We could try sentence by sentence now, or we could do it when we get back. Which, you want to do it now, sentence by sentence? Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Why don't we we'll do a happy medium. We'll do lunch now, and the first thing we'll do when we come back is run this through sentence by sentence. Okay? I think that'll, yeah. There's the grumbles from the tummies going, let's eat. Let's eat. Okay. When we... I hope you had a good experience at lunch. I hope you got to eat. We went on a forage. It took like a half an hour just to find someplace where we could buy something to eat. There's a few of you that actually found a restaurant that had really great food that you could eat at. I know the group we were running around with, we went to about 8 different places. They were all closed. We finally found an outside vending person that had like French fry submarine hoagies. Submarine hoagies with a bit of meat and stuff and French fries in them. Interesting. Yeah. Even if you put them in a bun. No, I mean, I'm a little tired from our hike. It's practice for tomorrow. Now here tomorrow it's about an hour to hike into Montsegur to get into it. So I don't think we're going to be rushed or anything, though. It's like we don't have to, you hike up there for an hour and then you have like, okay, guys, they're going to kick us out in a half hour. We're going to get, fast. We should be able to hang out there for a while, do the work that we came to do. And we're going to try to do, for the people who want region ordinations that haven't had them, we'll try to do those up there because it's a very, it's a very special place for anybody associated with the Emerald Order teachings. And in the meantime, today, we're going to go through the stuff on the beast, the information on the beast a bit. And some of you already heard some of this from the Phoenix workshop or the Pennsylvania workshop. But we'll cover it again a bit in a way just so everybody's caught up and they know what is what with the beast mechanism. And it really, fortunately tonight's not going to be one of those where you get out of here and you go grab your seat at dinner. We don't have to go till 8 o'clock. It was originally scheduled for like 10:30 till 5:30 with the lunch hour, in between and 2 breaks. So we don't have to go that long. There's about 2 hours left of material for today, and I haven't been given the download yet for the other long workshop that's after the trips. So it should be an easy afternoon for us, and then like a relaxing evening. And we need that if we're going to be going tomorrow and hiking. And I hear it's like hiking, like uphill hiking. Right.
Is it going to be like Peru?
No.
I hope not. I don't. It's not as steep, is it?
No, it's not.
Right. Yeah. Well, it took us 3 hours to hike up Titicaca in Peru. Yeah, it shouldn't be that bad. So we'll try to have an easy evening, maybe just kind of like festive and relaxing evening when we get done with here. And what we'll have is tomorrow we're going to be doing the Technique 12 Rishi invocation statement on the site. So we'll need to bring these papers with you, and you'll also. Did they get the code yet?
No.
Okay. Before you leave tonight, you will get the scepter code, the picture of the scepter code. So we will do direct induction, but they want us to do it tomorrow, not tonight. All right. So like when you get it, you can play with it and like just meditate with it if you want to, but don't do optical pineal induction with it, the full thing where you cross your eyes and breathe it in and stuff, until we're on site tomorrow, is what they ask. All right. So, for now, I guess, am I going to flip my Larsa? Are you? Thank you. I need longer arms. I would be glad to give them to you. Yeah. Okay, I won't put this one on just as a kind of wrap up. And we're going to do the song once more. Because I said as soon as we get back, we'll do it by sentence, by, each line. Yes. Here we go. First, let's do that one. Okay, they're right here, but these are the beastie stuff. These are the beastie stuff. That's the end of the other stuff. Yes. Okay. Oh, I need the yellow book for that too. There's stuff I wanted to read. Yeah, we have the yellow book there. Okay. And pardon me for sitting down, but I know a few of us have been getting heavy-duty activations like Kundalini, craniosacral type, particularly sacral activations for the last 2 days in preparation for the site work. And I'm sitting because it's hard to stand at the moment, the tailbone stuff. So if any of you find you're getting tailbone pain, or you have like tailbone pain the one day, the next day it moves up to where it's in your neck and in your shoulder, this is your own self knows what it needs to run for this particular site work, and you're activating. That's your main vertical current is actually beginning its expansion process to be able to hold and run more of the frequency. And your sacral seals, if your back is hurting your lower back, it means your sacral seals are opening. Your Kundalini seals in the sacral region in the tailbone. And if you're getting it up here, in like from the neck up to the head, it means your cranial seals are opening. So it's normal, but it doesn't feel too great when it happens. Yes. Very tip of the tailbone. That would be sacral seal related as well. Yeah. It can go anywhere from like the tip of the tailbone down a little bit into the legs and the joints of the hips, and the other can go like from the middle of the back, heart chakra area, all the way up into your head and things. So if you're getting any kind of pain like that, there's also, I've heard a couple people complain that they're getting pain in the left knee. And that can be associated with what we've talked about in other workshops, the Jehovian seals, which are implants that are nasty, but they're not as bad as the Metatronic ones. They're they're activating because of the planetary grids in general. And as we're working with Flame Body, we're clearing them. So, sometimes they will kick up, particularly if you're doing heavy activation. So if you feel like you're falling apart during this workshop, don't worry, you'll feel better when you go home. And by tomorrow, I have a feeling where the Gold Wave infusion is going to be starting tomorrow. They said, very, very late tonight. It would be tomorrow morning, about between 1 and 2 in the morning is when it starts, and it just starts to peak. And it's going to be, they said, I think, 3.5 to 4 days it's going to run at its peak. So this peak is going to start between 1 and 2 a.m. tomorrow, which is this evening after, while we're still in bed. And we will be there to absorb the peak as it's coming through, and it will sustain for a while. So we will get a charge of frequency during this process at Mount Segur that should make a lot of this stuff loosen, first of all. Also, people that were guided to this trip, there's always guidance from above for people to come to any of these trips, and like they'll go to one instead of another and that kind of thing. It's your own avatar level of self knows what contract you had to be at a certain site during this time period, because you have specialized codes that go with the grids. So once you release those codes, it's almost like they build up and build up and build up, and they can hurt and make you feel tired or wobbly or like you want to go to sleep for the next 3 days. Once you drop those codes and they run, and particularly if you combine a gold wave monadic infusion with that, it should make you feel pretty good. So I would imagine even though we might be a little tired from hiking tomorrow, I have a feeling it's going to be, we're going to feel pretty good, and it's going to, there's that celebration feeling that it seems to be centered around tomorrow, and probably going into Rennes le Chateau as well the next day. So I think we have something to look forward to anyway. Now, this diagram, I just wanted to show you on this, that this is showing the Kathara grid inside the body, and what it's showing in the Kathara grid over there on the left side of the diagram are the three flames. The Akadic blue flame on this side, on what would be the right side of the body. You have the polaric gold flame coming down the center, and the triadic violet flame coming down the left side. When we do this technique 12, the Rishi invocation, what it is doing is activating those particular sites within the shields, and it's flashing that on. It's like it's as if you were looking at someone and you had a high enough frequency vision, you would see that image flash on as the flame flashed on within the body. They don't run down like water. They flash on and off as if they were a set image with the three of them in. So what we're doing every time we run this technique 12 is flashing on and getting a burst of the Kirishe primal light field Rishi currents into our bodies. And it will be, as some people will be able to hold lots of it, like if you have 36 to 48 strands, it would be a much more intense color, where if you have 12 to 12 strands, you'd actually just see it in the auric field, because 12-strand human can't fully hold a full flash on of that. They can get the subharmonics, but that's it. But anything from like the indigo, any of the indigos, would get some version of color in that, either like very pale, which means the body's not ready to handle a lot yet, or if you have a lot of strand content that's activating fast, you could actually get really deep, intense, bright color in there. So I just wanted to know what was happening when you sing this song. It's activating the nodes in the shields, and it's creating that effect within the body when you do it. And you can do this technique once you learn it, and it comes to you like you can say it to yourself at the drop of a hat, like you can the Maharada song. After you learn that, you're literally charging your field and your flame body. You're making your flame body stronger and more intense every time you run that. So it's even like when you're driving your car and you're bored. Once you've learned it and it's on autopilot, you can just just say it over to yourself like a mantra. And you can't give yourself too much of the frequency, because your Christos current will actually stop the frequency from coming in if you're already too full. So you can't harm yourself with it. Okay, so I promised we would go through this line by line. I'll try word for word again. It's really not hard. What's hard for me is reading it, like looking at it and then trying to say it. But the words themselves aren't that difficult, and some of them we already know. So I guess you all have them to look at now. If you want, we can say them together instead of we'll say them and then you can repeat them. We can all read it together, just like line by line. First line, yeah. All right. Ishura, Aru Antrivectus, De Amir, Ashalom Ta, Inue, Oremata, Ade, Nita, Arshu, Itate, Kia. And that's where you pause. And try to pause now just to see with that little bit if you can feel anything. It would be coming up probably from below your feet, or like coming up from the ground area. Yeah, just a little subtle kind of coming up. Yeah. Now you can go or umeta, Isa, Izue Inat, Ezura He, Umteta, no, I messed up. Eta, Isa, Amorea. Hea ete, Iurae, Ishura, Aru, Umeta. Ta'eja inte, Ahumton. We'll do it one more time, a little faster. We don't pause in between the words, right? Ishura eru antrivectus de amir. De amir.
You say after you? Yeah, that's how.
You say after me? All right. We'll do it that way. Okay. Ishura uru antrivectus de amir. Ishura aruan trivectus de amir. Ashalamta inue. Ashalamta inue. Orem ata ade nita. Orem ata ade nita. Arshu itate kia. Arshu itate kia. Or umeta isa zueinat. Or umeta isa zueinat. Ezura he umteta isa amorea. Ezura heta umteta isa amorea. Hea ete iurae. Hea ete iurae. Ishura Ishura aru eta. Ishura aru eta. Ta'eja inta ahumton. Ta'eja inta ahumton. There we go. Ahumton.
You're saying E, but you have a little thing.
That's right. It's Eshura. Eshura, right.
The fourth line? It's not K. The fourth line down also is...
1, 2, 3, 4. Etate. Etate. All right. Yes, that's what I mean. That's when I'm doing it fast. I have a hard time with that sometimes. It's etate. It's what it's written there, and that's what I have a hard time with. Not just seeing the letter, but see, wait a minute, is it long or short? And what's emphasized on it while I'm doing it. After a while, it comes natural, but it is etate in line 4, and it is eshura. Eshura. All right, well, I was just saying, as far as Ashura, it can actually be, if you're saying sacred, or if you're saying sacred, right? Ishura. Ishura would be sacred, right? Big sacred. big sacred. Whoa, right? Where Ashura is sacred. Yeah. There's a whole difference in gesture in that. This is why Anahazi can be tricky. There are certain things that mean one thing in one context and a completely other thing in another context. And there are word combinations in sounds. It can be really confusing. There are several different ways to say some of the words, like I just pointed out with Ashura. Ashura is kind of like, it would be more of the kind of like devotional acknowledging the level thing. But if you're making a statement of sacred, it would be Ishura. So there's a whole different way of using language that some people say, oh, when are you going to write the dictionary? Or like, at least get the whole alphabet down. Yeah, right. Talk to me in 20 years. So anyway, that was pretty good. What we can do tonight, once we're on our own, it would be good to try to practice it a bit so we can do it, in faster sequence. Because I know even when we just did that little bit faster, I felt heat come out that time, not just a little puff of a kind of a wave tickle. There was just a little bit of heat that came up. And interestingly, I'm just sharing my observations of because I haven't used this either. We got it down and brought it to you. The heat seemed to come not up through my feet, but through my Maharic pillar on the outsides, and I felt it most strongly up around my shoulders and going up my neck. So that was what I experienced. I don't know, anybody feel heat with that when we said it a little bit faster? Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised if we, if that's good that even anybody has, right? Because, when we're just learning something like that. So imagine if we've got this good and we have it memorized, and we just, repeat it a few times over and over. Imagine what you can build with that. And then imagine when you combine it with the breath, because there is a way that eventually you learn to combine the inhales and the exhales to expand and contract the energy in the body. While you're doing it, we don't have to worry about that for tomorrow. So, if we practice that for tomorrow, and we will practice playing with, but not fully activating, the Scepter 12 code for tomorrow. That'll be interesting to see what the experience of energy is going to be like. Now, what I would like to... you were also given some other grids, and if we have time after we talk about the beast thing, I will go over. I think it's technique 11. I believe is the shadow healing invocation power grid. That's worth doing with the group because the group amplifies the power of it. So if there's time at the end before we, which we should be able to make time for, we'll do that one at the end, and that one's in English. Yeah. Yeah, what's kind of nice is when you say this one in English, it even has a thing to it when you just say it in English, the Rishi one, sacred inner son of the divine trinity reflected outward through me. I mean, there's just this beautiful flow to it. It's like a piece of poetry. Okay. Anyway, okay, he's saying, get on with it. I'm getting on with it. He's funny when he does that, by the way. Ma'a will do that sometimes, like, keep it rolling, girl, come on. But it's done with a sense of humor. He's not like bossy or anything, get on with it kind of stuff. It's like, ribbon me, like, all right, let's go on. Because I tend to go on tangents and I get chatty and I just like to talk with y'all because I like you. Keep focused. Yes, can we have the next one, please, love? And Tanya too. Can I Well, you are. Now we're in trouble, right? There's no assistance here. Your speaker is taking transmission. This is going to be, I'm going to go through this one quick and on to the next one. Okay? Yeah. I get dyslexic with these things. All right. This was just, you're going to see these things in bigger form soon. But this was just to remind you, because I showed you this before when I was explaining the phantom black hole systems, and how their axes come through the axes of our 12-dimensional Vecca world and our parallel. How they come in through the our solar plane, our galactic plane as it's called, even though our scientists call it just the solar system, they call it the galaxy because it has its own Merkaba. We'll go through these in bigger form soon. We'll go through this in bigger form. Just to remind you that this is the system we're talking about, this beast apparatus. How did this beast apparatus that can create this link between our system's radial bodies, the radial bodies of phantom that fell from our system, and the radial bodies of a black hole matrix that completely fell, that has nothing to do with our system in the first place, how could something like that be created? What is this beast thing, first of all? We'll get into what it is and a bit of how it was created, and there'll be a little bit of a reading of, because the reading is the best way to do it. It just explains kind of like in a nutshell how the thing occurred and when it started to happen. But I just wanted you to remember this. Okay, we're back to black hole systems, and how did this mess that became the beast start? What is the beast? What is its apparatus? We go to the next one, please. Grab it before I say something else on it. Right. Alrighty. This gives you in bigger form one of those little diagrams that we were down here on the thing you just saw. Now, this is part of the beast. I'm going to stand up for this one. I'm going to have to. In fact, here comes the heat. Hold on 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay. This one's fun to explain, especially if you haven't done it for a while. Okay, what was what? Right. Over here, I'm going to have to move this because you guys aren't being able to see a bit. Okay. Again, I don't have my pointer. All right, over here. of the Matrix because they had fallen once and they were actually a threat to the other living beings in the Matrix. But if they could get them to ascend, at least through like partial regenesis of the Christos imprint, they could get them out and then find somewhere else to kind of quarantine them and allow them to evolve back to full Christos imprint. Well, the Eye of Metatron ended up being taken over by the Wissadek races, and that gave the Wissadek races at dimension 11.5 the ability to create a wormhole between their matrix through Phantom Matrix, where the Eye of Metatron was, and into our natural matrix. The 11.5 connects into our Stargate 12, because 11 is, D11, 11.5 is halfway into D12. All right, so D11.5 is actually the first half of D12. Our D12 is our universal divine blueprint. So they plugged into our universal divine blueprint at D11.5, and from there they created a wormhole. That's how they plugged into it. And a wormhole is a forced electromagnetic distortion by bending light and sound frequencies in ways that are not natural. You create different types of mathematical interplays and different types of energy particulates that aren't meant to be created in the first place. They're not part of the organic design. They were able to create the wormhole, and from there they were progressively able to begin the process of splicing in through the Phantom, the portions of our Stargates that had gone into Phantom, which is their shield had gone into partial reversal. They were able to plug in their reverse shields into the partially reversed shields of Phantom and access directly into our gates. There was a series of wars that I don't know if I can read this on here because it's so tiny. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Now, the Eye of Metatron was taken over by the Wissadeks 150 billion years ago. During the Gaian Wars, I can't even read this, 5 million years ago, 500 million years ago, I think it is. Let me look. Yeah, I used to have these dates in my head until they taught me flame body activation, then it blew everything out of my head. Gaian Orion. Yeah, all right, they were called the Gaian Orion Wars 570 million years ago. That's when the first heart implant was set in motion. All right, then there was another series of wars, the Terran Wars, the Terran-Syrian Wars, 550 million years ago. This is where the Voyagers Volume 2 original book had started with our history, telling us about our fall from Terra. During that period, they got this section of the beast in motion with the other heart of Metatron, the second heart of Metatron. When down here, this is once we were after the fall from Terra, where Earth and this solar system that weren't even here in the first place, they weren't in density 1. Literally, this solar system was created from the fall of Terra. And all of the pieces of the solar system belong to Terra, where if you assimilate them and put them back together to get them up to the next level, they'd all become part of the body of the planet that was called Terra, which is Alcyone in the Pleiades when we look at it from here. So after the fall, we were here 5.5 million years ago. It was in seeding 1. This is what ended human seeding 1 on Earth. Down here, we were attacked and basically devastated by the Wissadek and the Anunnaki and the Drak races. They all came in and raided here. The Electric Wars decimated just about every living hominid form on the planet. And during this period, the next heart of Metatron was set in motion within the grids. So these implants were set in motion during these periods of history and then have been progressively activating until they get up to full activation where they can run the full D13 reverse base 8 current of the blue sword. The one that's left, this one, is called, I believe, the Heart of Anubis. This is the only one that they intended to get this during the next stellar activation cycle. In 22,326 BC, which was our last stellar activation cycle, they attempted to activate this heart. But that stellar activation cycle ended up in a slight pole shift, which would have been a lot worse because we all would have been in a black hole by now, if it hadn't been for the fact that the guardian races from the Eka and higher worlds actually forced shut the stargates here, which stopped that activating, but it also caused partial pole shift. There had been evacuations then where they took as many people as they could into the Eka world, so we weren't all destroyed or anything. But there was a stalemate that was left in 22,326 BC that could only be fulfilled when the gates opened again. Every 26,556 years, the gates can open, and it was known since this time that the next time period the gates would likely open would be during the 2000 to 2017 AD period. So this whole drama was put on hold well, at least outwardly, put on hold until then. There's been a whole progression of history of raiding on this planet that literally goes back to every battle that our history tells us is there, our history books tell us in school are there. They all fit into one or the other sides of the agendas that were being run as part of what's called the Atlantean conspiracy, which was getting everybody mutated enough so that they'd be easy to push around as puppets here to help them fulfill their final Armageddon scenario. The Armageddon drama was never about humans. It was about the raider races from Wysadek and from the Phantom Matrix who were trying to escape from the Wysadeks and destroy them before they got destroyed by them, going to fight with each other for dominion of the Earth grids. And because Earth it's not just Earth they're after. Earth is Universal Stargate 3. Our Sun is Universal Stargate 4. If they can get control of both of these, because see, they've done the same thing to the solar fields as well, they can reverse both pillars from the bottom up. They can pull the whole thing into reversal. That's why this has always been a hotbed. Terra was another place they could do it from. That holds Universal Stargate 5. That's why they were after Terra. That's Alcyone in the Pleiades. All right, so this has been a long and progressive history. What their objective is once you have the Phantom Matrix axis interfaced with us here through our Azure point, right? The Wysadek axis interfaced here, their Stargate set, and here is our main vertical axis. They connect through the Azure point, which is the lock between Universal Gate 6 and Universal Gate 7. When you put all of the stargates of theirs on their axis and of the Phantom on their axis, and you put all of the stargate circles on the Wysadek axis, you'll see that it creates a configuration of our Universal Stargate 6 creates a triangulation, the Wysadek Stargate 6 and the Phantom Stargate 6. That is the 666 Stargate configuration. It's known as the Templar Axion seal, and it is the sign of the beast. When they talk about those are the sign of the beast who have it on their foreheads and in their right hands, they're talking about the people who get fully Metatronicked. The sign of the beast also has a visual representation that we'll see in a couple of minutes. As far as, numerically it's the 666, but it has a visual representation. It's almost a tongue-in-cheek joke to the Wysadeks. They just chuckle when they watch this. All right, I'll show you in a second. But anyway, this is the structure, the intrinsic structure of taking templates and forcing them into an artificial binding to create electrostatic fields that mimic radial bodies, universal radial bodies, that allow for the creation of an artificially sustained light field that has to suck energy from other things to keep sustaining itself. It is finite, and if it cannot suck energy off other fields, it will eventually suck energy off itself. It will self-consume until it implodes. The beings that have been fully Metatronicked, who live in the Wysadek matrix, they can't get their templates out of this artificial bond now that they're fully Metatronicked. As we say, you can't reverse it because they've destroyed, technically, the mathematical coding in both templates that they fused together and created a new, distorted, chaotically arranged mathematic on which it's built. So the only way they can get freedom is through the implosion of their matrix, where they will go back to source and go back to their original place where they came from, but in pieces, as units of consciousness, the units of consciousness of God. So they're not separate from God either. They're just going to experience the return to God in a different way, and they're not happy about that. Now, nobody forced that on them. They made that choice themselves, and they were warned not to play with physics the way they were playing with physics. They made their choices. The guardian races have been trying to assist them for ages, to give them opportunities to regenerate their divine blueprint, to help them, to forgive them for the horrible things that they were doing. You didn't even have to forgive them. It wasn't being held against them in the first place. The insanity with which they used their brilliance was testimony to their sickness. So it's like a child who's very crazy but very brilliant. You don't hate the child, but you might really hate the actions that they take because they're harming other things. So there was never a hatred, but there was a lot of blame on our part, but there was a lot of blame on their part. One of their characteristics is, and you can see this in a lot of people on the planet these days, we've been very much programmed into this mentality where it's somebody else's fault that I'm the way I am. Projecting the responsibility for your own choices and your own decisions onto an outside force or another group of people, and hating that group of people because they took your power away. They will give lip service to the fact that, oh, no one can take your power unless you give it to them. They know that's true. Yet at the same time, that'll come out one side of their mouth, and at the same time, they will blame you for everything that has happened to them. And it doesn't matter. They're just looking for somebody to blame. What their answer would be at this point, after what they've done to themselves, is to find humility, at least. Because at least there would be peace in finding the humility. Okay, I did this. Like the murderer who flipped out, used to be a nice guy, flipped out, killed 10 kids. The whole community wants to destroy him completely. He's on death row, and he knows his execution is coming up. There is a peace. All right, I did this. I'm going to stop denying it. I'm going to stop pretending I didn't. I'm going to be accountable for my actions. So at least when you do go home in pieces, you don't have that constant turmoil, that constant fighting that comes from blaming something else outside of you, because it always bounces back at you, no matter how much you do it. But they're in no way ready to make that peace with themselves. Now, through what they've done recently is they have activated the beast early. They had intended to activate it in 2011. If they had done that, more of our planetary grids would have already been in reverse according to their plan. They were planning to reverse the grids more and more, so it would be very easy to make the fall. Because they activated it early, because we were having such success in clearing the grids with the D12 Christos frequency, they were afraid there wouldn't be any grids left for either side to take. When they activated that early, they didn't realize most of the grids would phase lock in what's called a 31 to 51% blend. Now, what that means is the planetary shields, the majority of the shields have between 31 and 51% divine blueprint left. It's not enough divine blueprint to flip over the reversals and clear them, but it's too much divine blueprint to allow for an easy fall. And what it has done is kept holes open in the net field, that electrostatic body, radial body, that's the artificial radial body of the planet. Now, the only response, and it's not a response somebody's going to make happen, the whole matrix itself, from the highest levels down, is designed, if this system was going to fall, or any other system, at a certain point of critical mass, where it would literally take out a whole system and its Eka core, it will run the pillars. It will run the scepter pillars. With the scepter pillars and the arcs running, what would happen is D12 subharmonics would go flying through the grids, and it would go through the grids that have the 31 to 51% of divine blueprint left. That would be all right. Those grids could hold it. The 31 to 51% could hold base 12. But because it left holes in the net where they were still fused together, it would go right down into the black hole systems, which cannot run a D12 forward-moving current because they're a base 8 reverse system. It would vaporize them and send them back to space dust instantly. Their beast turned around and was going to bite them. Yeah. So their only hope, of course, they knew it was a gamble. The only hope was to destroy the gate connection to the inner Eka gates that have to be used to run the pillars. And in our in our universal Cathara grid, our gate system, our 11 gate connects into the little Cathara grid that is the Eka gate, and there are 3 positions. So the 311 gate connection, it's called the Temple of Agartha in the inner Eka systems, and it's on what's called inner Earth. But there's actually another name for that place, but it is the inner Eka version of this planet that we call Earth, Terra, Gaia here. Now, they attacked Gaia, or not Gaia, they attempted to attack the Agarthan temple, and they failed because it has a force field on it. And they figured if they could use their big, powerful, blue sword from hell, they could at least damage it enough to stop and prevent the arcs from running, so the whole thing would fall. It didn't work. Yeah. They know the arcs are coming. At this point, nobody can stop the beast, and nobody can stop the arcs either. And this is why it's like, we told you it wouldn't work. I mean, after all the effort and trouble and suffering you've caused everybody to try to do this, we told you it was going to backfire. And now there's like, help. We hate you. Help. The only thing that can be done at this point is to create, using the arcs themselves, a natural separation between the parts of the grids that are Metatronic and can't be brought back around, and whatever is left that can be brought back around. That 31 to 51% needs to separate the Metatronic part from the non-Metatronic part, because if not, they're going to hold each other together like this, and both sides are going to experience what's called a solar red pulse. Now that is a pulse of D1 frequency, photosonic frequency, that will come from the solar fields of our sun. And it will run through our planetary core, and it will vaporize us on contact when that runs through. There's been like races disappearing. They didn't ascend. They got vaporized and blown back to space dust, literally, from the inside, from the atomic level. Now, it would come through our system, the grids that couldn't handle the red pulse. See, anything that's running on a full base 12 code that has its natural coding in it and there's no distortions or anything, a red pulse will pass right through it. A red pulse is actually a natural acceleration pulse that occurs under certain conditions in the sun during a stellar activation cycle. It's like one of the burst kicks that kind of kick off the full final opening of all of the gates. But if the shields are damaged and they can't run a full base 12 through that section of the shields, it causes problems because the base 12 begins to vaporize, which means destroy part of the structural integrity of the molecular structure of things in the areas that it can't run through. So the red pulse wouldn't have been good for either side. It would have gotten rid of their black hole very quickly. They would have ascended the only way they can, in pieces, instantly. Now, they have about 2 billion years of evolution left with the energy they've sucked already from other systems, our system. So if they become quarantined within that, at least they have an evolutionary period to experience life as they have chosen to experience it. Our groups have never wanted to stop that. The Elohai Elohim have always tried to help them heal and make better choices. But if they are making the choice that this is how they want to experience, and they made this choice a long time ago, we're not there to hurt them. We don't want to a red pulse is going to come and smack you and it's going to put you back, fragment you right back to where you belong. You won't get any life out of it. See, you deserve it because you've been so bad. That's not the attitude at all. We're glad that at least if they've made this terrible choice for themselves, at least there's mercy. The universe has mercy. They have some time left to try to enjoy the choices that they've made, which is the frequency that brings together the polarity of the lower dimensions. So they will always perceive in polarity conflict, which means there'll always be some type of power struggle drama going on between them. Their system is built on survival of the fittest. There is a finite amount of energy and we have to fight for it. In their world, that is true. So they've made their choices, and there's nothing that can be done to stop that, but there's also kind of a natural law of respecting the free will choices of other beings. The ones on the natural side of the matrix are getting what they have wanted for a long time too, which was the ability to live in peace without having to play victim roles. Just let us heal for a while. Because we went into this drama to try to help them heal. And we almost lost ourselves in the process. And some of us did. Some of us ended up being Wissadect, which means assimilated. The person isn't the same person anymore. Now, we're going through a time. Why this is important now are because of some of the events that we'll get into, briefing on. But I wanted you to see the anatomy a bit of the beast. There's a little bit more to the anatomy of the beast. And I think that's the next one, love, please. Yeah, I'll go real fast through this one, then I'm going to go through the other one that shows the beginning of the anatomy. All right. Now, yes. If we remember this one, this is just the natural one where we showed how the universal Vecca map plugs into our solar system, right, our galaxy, where this is our 12 stargates here. Over here is our primal light field. Over here would be the gates for the parallel, and up there you don't see would be the gates for the parallel light field. Down here you have Earth as universal gate 3, and the Sun on this side of density 1, and its counterpart Rabizod, the Sun, on the density 2 side. That's actually one spot, but it's kind of stretched apart because of the density barrier. There's a lock in between them. This lock becomes significant when we start to understand the anatomy of the beast. Now, we're here at Earth. There's our Sun. Coming off this way, there's our galactic Cathara grid, which is our galactic gate system. And it's like gate 6 plugs into gate 6, plugs into gate 6. If you want to take, there's all sorts of mathematical combinations you can take. But basically, our planetary gate 6 plugs into our galactic gate 6, plugs into our universal gate 6, etc. They're like main passageways between them. So this is our galactic grid. And literally, Earth is in the 3 position as well in the galactic grid. So you have Galactic Stargate 1 is Mercury, Galactic Stargate 2 is Venus, Galactic Stargate 3 is Earth, Galactic Stargate 4 over here is Mars, Galactic Stargate 5 was a planet called Maldak that was blown up in Seeding 2, and it's now the asteroid belt. Part of it is left as the asteroid belt. Galactic Stargate 6 is Jupiter, Galactic Stargate 7 is Saturn, Galactic Stargate 8 is Uranus, Galactic Stargate 9 is Neptune, Galactic Stargate 10 is Pluto. Galactic Stargate 11, this was fun. Galactic Stargate 12 used to be Nibiru, but then they did something to that, and they moved Nibiru into the 11th position. Then they did something to that. The something was they created another part of the beast, which was taking a fragment of Maldak that had been blown up. There was still like half a planet left. There was still a piece of it that was very large. They took part of that, and this is how powerful these guys are. They can move planets. Yes, they can. All right, that's what when you start to work with the Templar energies and the currents of frequency coming down, even from D11, these are powerful electromagnetic currents and photosonic and photoradionic currents. So literally, it took a part of this planet, and they first of all they used the crystalline Templar technologies, universal level, to shift Nibiru from its 12th position into the 11th position. They got rid of the planet that was called Chiron, that was in the 11th position. They blew it up. Part of it ended up as Pluto's moon, Charon, and the other part is this other thing that's floating around down in here between, I think it's between Saturn and Uranus. There's something called, they call that Chiron, and this Charon, they used to be the planet Chiron that was the natural 11th position. So they blew up Chiron and got rid of that. And they use these to actually conduct some of the energies of the beast. That was part of the beast plan. They moved Nibiru into the orbit that Chiron originally had, so it became the 11th planet. Then they took a part of this planet that had been blown up earlier, and they forced an artificial orbit between this planetary body that was called the Battlestar Wormwood, that was Nibiru and Battlestar Wormwood, with planet Nibiru, and they forced Nibiru into an elliptical orbit that ran between the Phantom Matrix and here. And every 3,657, I think, 0.8 years, Nibiru would come back in and circulate through our system, then go back, blink off here, and go back into Phantom. This is all the stories of Nibiru that came up like through the Sumerians and all of that thing. It was real, and these are all connected, but they're also a part of the beast. Originally, the artificial orbit was made to use Wormwood as a patrol station. When it became assimilated into as a tool of the beast, originally it was intended to go up and come in behind into our system, up through the lock, that our galactic lock appears between Jupiter. It's in between Jupiter and Mars. It's in the orbit between Jupiter and Mars, where Maldak was. There's a lock there. It would come into our galaxy through that lock, come behind the sun, and kind of zip around, but it wouldn't go directly between Earth and the sun. But it was like a patrol station, so they could keep track of the planet they hijacked, which was Earth. When it got hijacked by the Weesideks, and the Phantom races, the Anunnaki Phantom races, were the original ones that created the Nibiru and Wormwood orbit thing. And then they made deals with the Weesideks, where they turned it over to their control. And in their control, the beast, being assimilated into the beast apparatus, it would change the angle that Wormwood would come up into our galactic plane and actually make it go between Earth and the sun, flip around the sun like a ricochet, and then come back, and it would generate such magnetic force that it would literally stop for a moment the whole spin on the galactic Merkaba. The sun would stop, the planets would stop, just for a bit. And like I think it's 3 days was the scheduled thing. And once it stopped, then it would reverse spin, and that would pull us all right into the Weesidek black hole system, right into alignment with their orbit. So they assimilated the Wormwood Battlestar into the apparatus of the beast. It became the tool of the beast. Now, let me see. This is kind of what it looks like. Kind of. Can I see the next one, please? Sorry to disturb you. Okay. Now. Okay. It almost looks like a cancer, doesn't it? Like bubbles and cells of like growths that don't belong there. What this is, remember we just looked at, that was our natural 12 universal stargates, right? These are our galactic ones coming out here. Now up in here, this shows two things. Here's our axis, here's our galactic axis, our universal axis. Here is the, I always get these confused. This one is, if I could read this, it would be a good thing. I have to look at this closer. I always get dyslexic with the two. I think this one, which is Phantom. Can you read that? I always get confused on which axis is which. Oh, this is phantom, okay. This one here. This axis would be where the phantom gate system intersects with us, and this axis would be where the Wissedek system interfaces with us. And all up here in this little cluster of gates overlapping each other unnaturally, you have the 666 gate connection. In there you have a lock system, all right, the Azure lock. Now, when the beast activates, which means that final Metatronic heart activates, that's the heart implant that is down in the lowest systems. It's down here, and I believe it's in Epsilon Iridanus. It's in the vicinity of Epsilon Iridanus. That is the anchoring rod, where they can run the frequencies up here, but they had nothing to anchor it down here yet, all the way down, to bring it all the way through our gate system. That last heart of the beast was the last implant system that needed to be activated to be able to pull the current once it came through vertically all the way down. What this creates is, this is what's known as the flaming blue sword of Archangel Michael. It's also called the sign and symbol of the beast. Now I'll show you this in color in a second, a little more color. Comes in through the universal Azure point, through the 666 configuration, shoots out horizontally and vertically into the Cathara grid, forms a sign of the cross, or the sword, the flaming blue sword. The sign of the cross, the crucifix, is the sign of the beast. And I don't know a Christian church anywhere that doesn't use it. And that is really, talk about bad sense of humor these guys have. Oh. Because you have people running around trying to do the Christos thing, wanting to be part of the Christ body of the universe, all of that, giving their energy over repeatedly to the beast, to the sign of the beast. Most of the churches were built as zap stations, so the Metatronic implants could be progressively and slowly activated. Make sure you go to church. Wouldn't want to miss your zapping session. We have been soul tricked here. But so this was the original. This is what they're intending to do. The reason why we have gone on to Plan B. Plan A was fix it and negotiate out of the problem. There were in 1992, November of 1992, there were the Pleiadian-Sirian agreements where the Anunnaki crew that were part of the Wissedeks agreed to not do this. They agreed to not use the beast. They'd be peaceful. We would learn to co-evolve again. They broke that completely by September of 2000, September 12th, 2000. A year later, on the night of the day before the anniversary of their war edict, they did the 9/11, attacks in America. They decided they would activate the beast, and because us pesky little Azurites and such, see, they're not fighting with us; they're fighting with each other. You have what are called Wissedeks and Wissedraks. The Wissedeks are the Nephilim that are primarily Anunnaki races that were from the Phantom Matrix that hybridized with the Wissedek beetle people and became Wissedeks. And then there's the ones that were the Draconian, Omicron Draconian dragon moth and some hybrid reptilian dragon moth from Phantom Matrix that hybridized with the Wissedek beetle people, and they became the Wissedraks. And they hate each other just like they did when their other races had lived in Phantom. These guys are fighting with each other for grid control here, because whoever's mathematics are running through the grids, when whatever falls, will determine what area of their galaxies, what of those 7 heads of the beast, which part the grids will fall into, whether they'll be under Wissedrak control or Wissedak control. So we're stuck in the middle of this stupid war that they decided to have with each other. Now, we're in the middle of the process at this point of moving through Plan B. Plan B was initiated on, I believe, March 23rd, 2002, because they set the first set level of activation codes for the beast. That meant it's going to activate, but it didn't say when, for sure, it was going to activate. There was another set of codes, date codes, that had to be entered in, and they hadn't been. So we weren't given anything on a lot of this at that time. We were just told, we're moving into Plan B agenda. Plan B agenda was evac agenda. I said, uh-oh, what went wrong? Right? Why aren't we on Plan A, fix things? Which was, like we would try to fix it, work with them with the peace treaties and the whole bit. And they said, well, you know that they did the war edict in September of 2000. Well, they did something else that we'll tell you about later that has to do with what's called the turnstile matrices. Now, the turnstile matrices are something we didn't know about until we went to Calgary, Canada. And we had this very kind of top secret, so secret we didn't even know about it, grid work that had to be done up there. We found out literally the night it had to be done, where the Archangel Michael people were activating up in the Lake, what is it again? Louise. I always want to say Lake Lorraine. I don't know why. But it's Lake Louise area. They were activating the turnstiles up there, which are one of the major control turnstiles. Now, these are, again, crystalline apparatus that are implanted in the grids that are the broadcast stations, the receiving and broadcast stations for the Blue Flame, the Blue Sword Metatronic current. They were activating that. We didn't know that. We did a round table up there. So when they activated, we sent in the D12 frequency. So it started to have the turnstiles running as much of the D12 as it could, a base 8 D12, because it can't run a whole, base 12 D12 frequency. Boy, were they upset. They didn't like, what did we do? Why are we in trouble? We can tell we're being psychically attacked all over the place now. We really got the Nephilim Wisedet guys mad. What did we do? They started to give us a little more on it. Now, let me see. I'm going to show you the color ones on these first. It's a little more clear. Good, nice things left. I gotta remember not to touch you because you're drawing stuff, and I'm probably making squiggly lines. If you see squiggly lines in this next symbol code, it's because these are the times when I tapped him on the shoulder and took, "You've changed the Mylar, please." Let's see. Do I need this one? Yeah. Yeah. This shows the Nibiru thing. Okay. Now, is that backwards? That looks backwards. No, it's frontwards. Yeah, it is backwards. It's backwards. Is it backwards? Is it backward? Yeah, that looks better. Okay. Now, this... Yeah, it is seriously out of focus. That's why I couldn't read the little print at all. All right. What this shows, again, is where that blue sword from hell comes through our universal gate system. You can follow it around. What this also shows is showing you what I was talking about wormwood and how it would be used as the torque drive, enough to give enough push to literally reverse the spin on our solar matrix, which would take it down into alignment with Wisedet. Normally, this kind of like red dotted thing here, that's the normal axis that Nibiru and wormwood would follow. See, what they do is you have Nibiru at one end of an orbit,